Do you want to finally get rid of that pinch that's in your hips sitting here right now? Maybe when you're walking or doing some squats? Then it's time to talk about the hip flexor muscle you've been missing to address the TFL. If you haven't checked out my video on the top 4 reasons for a weak glute medius, be sure to go check that out so you can be familiar with this muscle's relationship to the hips. Before we talk about how to stretch and release this muscle, let's talk about the anatomy so we understand the function of it. The muscle originates from the crest of our hip bone, then attaches into our IT band, then attaches into our tibia down here into our shin. So because that TFL attaches to that IT band, they have a very close relationship. A lot of people will go ram, roll, and massage all through the IT band, hoping to release the pain within there, but they'll get no return because the IT band is supposed to be a thick fibrous tendon that encapsulates the lateral side of our leg. So instead of rolling out that IT band, focus on that TFL and you'll feel a little more of release. So its main actions is hip flexion, so bringing the leg upwards, hip abduction, bringing the leg outwards to the body, and then hip internal rotation, so bringing the knee inwards. So knowing the anatomy and the function of this muscle, you can see where I was talking in my glute medius video, where if we have overly tight hip flexors and overly tight adductors, it's gonna pull our leg inwards when we're walking and create that kinetic chain failure to then not allow our glute medius to fire. So that weak glute medius can lead to hip, knee, ankle, or even low back pains and dysfunctions. To test that glute med versus that TFL, go watch that video. It gives you a little bit more of a breakdown how to bias those testings. So how do you release this muscle? When you think about a tight muscle, you want a stretching component and then you want a physical release. For the physical release, you either want a lacrosse ball, a foam roller, a Theragun, a physical therapist, a massage therapist, some type of manual pressure into that muscle. So to release that TFL muscle, my favorite is with a lacrosse ball. To find that TFL, you're gonna find that hip bone, you're gonna go 2 inches down, you're going 2 inches back, and then that's where we're gonna place that ball. From there, we're gonna get down onto the ground. So you're gonna get into a side plank position when we're down into the ground. We're gonna find that location. So again, 2 inches down, 2 inches posterior, put it right on through there. You're gonna lay on your side like you're in a side plank position. You can base how much pressure you're putting into this ball with this back elbow in this back leg. So you can either sink a lot into it or a little bit. But from there, all we're gonna do is we're just gonna let our body relax. Take some deep breaths. Sometimes you might even feel twitches within that muscle. Take it back to breath to just help everything relax a little bit more. To increase the intensity of this release, you can add knee raises. So we're gonna bring and slide our knee up and down as we're tacking down that TFL muscle and stretching and moving it through a range of motion. This one is one of those that kind of hurts so good, but trying to find that spot, even if you kind of need to move around a little bit more, and then move those knees back and forth. So you can maybe do this for about 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe during that time, you're moving the knees or you're just kind of sinking in it, letting it relax for 30, 40 seconds, then bring the knee slides back into it. You can get pretty dynamic with it to kind of really challenge that release. To stretch the TFL, a lot of people will just get into this couch stretch, which is my favorite hip flexor and quad stretch to do. If you guys want a video on these stretches, drop a comment down below and I'll make a video on hip flexor stretching. But in order to really stretch that TFL, we need to add a little bit more rotation within the body and abduction and not just be in hip flexion here. My favorite thing to do is a TFL drop down. So we'll get back onto the ground here. We're gonna lay on our back and we're gonna cross one knee over our leg here, okay? And then from there, all we're doing is we're keeping our foot in the same location and we're just gonna drop our knee down to the ground as you let this hip pull over, trying to aim to hit that knee down to the ground. You wanna make sure when you're doing this, you're not having your spine rotate. You wanna keep your back on the ground the best you can while you push with this opposite leg down to the ground. Okay, you can in this position add a little bit of intensity with it. So add a PNF, contract, relax, where we squeeze this glute, almost like we're trying to hip thrust upwards for a good 5 to 7 second count as we're pushing down with this leg to allow that resistance to push, okay? Hold that for that 5 to 7 second count and then relax, reset, go again. I squeeze that glute as we hip thrust out of there, trying to drop that knee further and further every single rep. For an alternative to that stretch, if you have bad knees or it's hard to get down on the ground, you can do it standing. So standing, what you're gonna do, because that TFL attaches on the top of that hip crest, we wanna bring this leg back behind us to already give a stretch through there, okay? From that, you're gonna hang on to something so you have a little bit of assistance, and then we're gonna shoot our hips down and across out in front of us so we get a stretch along that TFL while we keep that leg nice and straight. You can also play around with the ankle, dipping the ankle back rather than being it straight up like so, so you can get a little bit more of a fascial stretch as it comes all the way down through that leg. So drop that ankle back behind you, sit those hips back. This one we're holding more for a good 30-45 seconds. You could play around with your hips a little bit if you need to find that area. Kind of really get that stretch. Now that we've stretched and released the TFL, if you have that weak glute medius, now is the time to go follow it up with glute medius strengthening exercises. But there are times that this muscle gets tight because it is weak. So it's important to strengthen it, especially if you're someone like a runner who uses this muscle a lot of the times. It's important that it's strong. So to strengthen the TFL, what we're gonna do is we're gonna place a band around our ankles, and then from there, we're gonna get into a quadruped position, so on our hands and knees. A lot of times people like to do these donkey kicks where they're coming out to the side like this, and it's very similar, but now we're going to start with our leg across the body. So we're stretching that TFL to start, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come out and across because it's a hip flexor, so we're trying to aim down to the ground here. So you're going to come up and you're coming down across, so tapping the toe there to then tap the toe up to the sky. You can do the same thing standing to control and challenge that glute medius on this leg. So control and stand on this foot, where this back leg comes back and across, and then we're coming forward to that same position while we work those hip flexors and those abductors, out and across and back and down. So just slow and control. Make sure you keep that leg nice and straight on this one. Make sure you're not getting too much motion from the low back, and you're holding that traction down to that pelvis as it's just that TFL working. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you're subscribed so you can watch future videos of how the TFL relates to the lower body. If you need help determining if your TFL or glute medius is weak or overused, you can actually work with me online, apply with my website so we can create an individualized plan for you. Drop a like and leave a comment down below if you guys want to know my favorite hip flexor stretching exercises. I will see you in the next one.